back to Mind Over Matter, where transformation starts with awareness. Tonight, we are diving deep into the kitchen and the culture with the incredible Karin Adoni Ben-David, a certified nutritionist, health coach, and sugar detox expert. After overcoming a decade long struggle with eating disorders, Karin's mission is now clear: empower others to heal from the inside out with food that fuels both body and soul. From processed food dangers to the obesity crisis among kids, this conversation is a must listen for every conscious eater and parent. Welcome to the show, Kareen. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be in here. Thank you for having me.
Mm. So, let's start with a tough truth. Why are processed foods so dangerous, and why do they have such a strong hold on us emotionally?
Okay. So first of all, we need to understand that there's a difference. There's natural food, which we just want to explain for a second, which would be like a tomato. That's like the normal, that's the natural food. And then we have a processed food, which would be like a tomato paste that went through a certain amount of processing, but it's not considered ultra processed. Okay. And then we have the ultra processed food, which would be the tomato turned into a tomato paste, the tomato paste turned into a frozen pizza with 26 different ingredients. So when we're talking about the problems that we have in today's world, we're talking about ultra processed food in specific. Okay. Which is extremely important to understand. And it's also important to understand that having something that comes out of a bag with 5 ingredients isn't the same like having something that has 20, 30, or 40 ingredients, which you do not know what they do to your body. So, what's the reason? First of all, we know that studies show that people that consume higher amounts of ultra processed food have a tendency to consume about 30 to 40% more of their daily calorie intake. And that's due to the fact where they add additives that makes the food much more tastier, much more addictive, using more salt, more sugar, more MSG, okay, which make you crave the food more. Those foods are usually also low in protein, high in fats, and low in fiber. Okay. So, what makes it basically that you're not consuming anything that keeps you full and satisfied, and you're just consuming a lot of empty calories. Now, it's not exactly empty calories because you're consuming actually bad calories. Because on top of that, they're also adding synthetic food dyes, they're adding high fructose corn syrup, they're adding titanium dioxide, they're adding so many bad ingredients into that, which basically turns it into a catastrophic thing for your health. We now see studies that literally said that every bite that you take from ultra processed food actually shorten your lifespan. Now, on top of that, our taste buds, which are now so used to things that have such an enhanced flavor of sugar, of salt, of barbecue seasoning, or whatever it is. And now you go take a bite from an apple, it tastes like nothing because our taste buds are now and like wanting and craving for that. So one of the things that we also know is that our taste buds also replace themselves every 3 weeks. So once you get off something for literally 21 days, all of a sudden you see that your taste buds will change and you're going to taste things differently, but it does take a moment. But because of that, also emotionally, it's like a rabbit hole that you can't come out of because you don't feel full and satisfied. You're not consuming proteins, you're not consuming fiber, and you're actually consuming things that makes you becomes more addicted. We also know there's a direct correlation between gut and mind. So your gut bacteria, which is your second brain, when you consume so much ultra processed food, it completely messes up your gut bacteria. What can, and we know that studies show, cause more depression, lack of motivation, and of course, more sickness and inflammation because 70% of our immune system is actually in our gut bacteria. So it's catastrophic from so many different angles. Like, not to say, even talking about weight, which we know a direct correlation with in obesity and Western diet as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, It's not just what we eat, it's what we believe about what we eat.
Yes, it is.
So, childhood obesity is rising globally. As a nutritionist and mom, how do you see this impacting future generations?
So, listen, unfortunately and sadly, we know that we have basically, this is the first, okay, generation of kids in modern history that is expected to live a shorter lifespan than their parents, which is unheard of. Since we have, the modern medicine, since we have studies, since we have hygiene, since we have, emergency medical hospitals and everything, our lifespan and, have been extended tremendously versus 100 years ago, that we would die from an infection because we didn't have the proper antibiotics. But we're now seeing that where the world is going is that significantly our life frequency is going down. We see type 2 diabetes with teenagers, okay, teenagers, which is something we've never seen in the past. Type 2 diabetes was a disease for adults. The only diabetes that we would ever see with kids was type 1, which is youth diabetes. So it's like our pancreas can hold to the amounts of sugar and ultra processed food. And we also know there's a few things, there are a few factors this goes into it. First of all, I want to say obesity is not genetic. That narrative is a narrative that between the pharmaceutical and the food industries that don't have the interests for our health created, because few generations ago, even going back 30 years ago, 35 years ago, we didn't have this epidemic. And evolutionally, we don't change and modify to that extent. So we 100% know that we have specifically a problem with that. And it's got to do with environmental, it's got to do with habits, and it's got to do with the food industries. So another thing that goes into that, it starts with the baby formulas that unfortunately in the US, but overall globally, because US sets the tones for a lot, there's a demand to add seed oils, which are highly inflammatory. Up until not a long time ago, we had high fructose corn syrup in the majority of them. We have low fat milk, which we know actually babies need high fat in order to thrive and to succeed and for their brain development. So we're using low fat milk, but then adding tons of seed oils into that because we want to remove actually the natural fat and add the synthetic ones, like things that makes no sense. And then we're adding on that we have stages in our life where we develop fat cells. So basically, we have a certain amount of fat cells that we have in our body. And then after the age of 18, and then for women also during pregnancy, the amount of fat cells does not change itself. So if we have 1 million of fat cells by the age of 18, their volume can be smaller or bigger, but the number won't change. And we do know for that reason is that kids that are overweight or obese or teenagers have between 50 to 70% more likelihood to be an obese adult because the amount of fat cells they have in their body is so big and the body is always thriving back to go there. So the first years in a kid life are so critical. Then we're adding on that, we also see that kids, you know, we normalize having cupcakes with food coloring at every party. We normalize eating Fruit Loops for breakfast. We normalize having a piece of white toast with no, added value or nutrients in it. So it's just empty calories. So it's also very easy for kids, to get drawn into that. So less fresh foods, less proteins, less fiber, not drinking enough water. So it's like when you have all of those lying in front of you, chances of raising healthy kids don't work on the parents, advantage. You actually need to be a very well aware, conscious, and hands on parents in today's world, specifically in America and the US, to raise healthy kids. It's like you need to work in it because you need to avoid so many things in today's world.
Absolutely. So, what practical steps can families take to shift this trajectory starting today?
Great question. I think number one, every synthetic food coloring a family has, specifically with small kids, I would get rid of 1000% as soon as possible. And that goes from like jello, cereal, even pickles, that they add sometimes even to like sauces and teriyaki. Like I would start looking at ingredients. That would be the first thing. I would say also 80-20 rule would be sufficient for the majority of the families. That would be to get rid of the ultra processed food. Now, there's also that take of saying, yes, but healthy food is expensive and pricey, which is true and not true. And I wanna talk about it because yes, definitely buying organic, grass fed, humanitarianly, raised. Those things are pricier, unfortunately. But if a family cannot afford buying organic food, it's completely fine. Go with real produce. Go with fruits, go with vegetables. You can do organic. You can also wash them in baking soda if you want to get rid of the pesticides. And even if you cannot, it's fine. You can buy rice and you can buy beans and you can buy potatoes and sweet potatoes and use frozen veggies that are cheaper but are actually have a great source of nutrients because they're being frozen just after they've been harvested and their vitamin and nutrient content is high. So that's another thing that I would say. Um, I would completely cold turkey get rid of anything that is not water. Like sparkling water is fine, but other than that, nothing. Not Diet Coke, no sodas. Also, juices, I would do like a fresh juice at home every now and then as an occasion. Not that it's bad for kids, it's just that kids have a tendency to be naturally drawn into sweets. And once you get your kids used to having a juice or something sweet, they might have a tendency not to want to crave water anymore. So that's another thing we have to take under consideration. Another thing that 100% I would say family dinners, which is something we are skipping in today's world. It has a very important and meaningful effect because we know that longevity and raising healthy kids and being a healthy adult isn't just about what you eat, is also about your habits and life habits. And creating that family dinners has a very big significant and plays a role into that as well.
That makes so much sense. Changing the family culture around food changes everything.
Everything.
Mhm. So, you talk a lot about sugar detox. Why is sugar so addictive, and how do you recommend people start letting it go without feeling deprived?
It's what again? Letting the sugar. Okay. So, sugar, even though studies don't want to show that, we know that people are completely addicted to sugar. So, when the one thing, and when we're talking about sugar, we're talking about added or not natural sugars. If a person have, I don't know, a Greek yogurt with some, honey or maple, I'm completely okay with that. We're talking about cutting back on the Diet Coke or Coke that you're drinking. We're talking about cutting back your Starbucks drinks with like 60 grams of like sugar first thing in the morning, which has got nothing to do with a drink. It's just like it's not a coffee. It's basically just your sugar that you're now consuming. So first thing that I would say is that yes, cold turkey does work. The first couple of days are harder because you have withdrawal symptoms. So you're gonna get headaches and you're going to feel maybe lethargic, and you're going to just basically feel more fatigued. But that's normal. That's a part of the body getting rid of the addiction. Now, to counter that, we need to have a few things. First of all, I want to say a body and a person that has non-stop sugar cravings, it means their body is completely out of balance. Naturally, we're not supposed to crave sugar all day long or a lot or in the afternoons. It means that A, you're either not consuming the nutrients that your body needs, like the proteins, like the fiber, like the healthy fats, and it does mean that you're over consuming it because sugar is like friends, one brings the other, you know? So once you start off with that, more comes to the table as well. Now, to counter, I would start with higher breakfasts first thing in the morning, like 20 grams of protein at least. So it can be like eggs, it can be, tuna, it can be for the people who eat meat in the morning, can be yogurt or whatever it is, can be lentils for the vegan and vegetarians. So I would definitely start off with that as well. And then I want to say that there's also like natural supplements that you can also add. So the first thing, it will always be the nutrition, but supplements supplement that as well. So studies shows that supplements like berberine, like cinnamon, like chromium, really, or bitter melon, really helps to reduce those sugar cravings and blood sugar levels. So chromium basically helps the cells respond better to insulin. So you end up digesting and breaking down carbs better. Cinnamon helps to balance your blood sugar levels. So you're going to crave less sugars. So basically, all of those also plays into a role in that. And also consuming less sugar will create more of a balanced appetite. So you can definitely do that because it's like it's a natural GLP-1 because once you actually consume what your body needs, the body naturally will balance and the appetite levels will balance and the sugar cravings will be reduced.
I love how you turn healing into nourishment and not punishment. So, Karen, thank you for reminding us that food isn't just fuel, it's a gateway to freedom. Your journey from disordered eating to empowered living is a roadmap for so many. To everyone listening, your health is a daily choice. One bite, one belief, one boundary at a time. So stay curious, stay kind to your body, and we will see you next time on Mind Over Matter.